Welcome to Wayne County Connection. I'm your host, Michael Sweigart. Thanks for joining me again as we highlight Wayne County as a great place to work, live, and play. As always, we encourage you to do your part to make Wayne County a great place to work, live, and play, and you can get connected by visiting our website at waynet.org/cc as a great place to get started. In addition to finding out about today's program and past programs, you can also share the program with people who may not get it on broadcast television because we have links there to watch the program on demand and streaming. So check out our website at waynet.org/cc for all you want to know about Wayne County Connections. Also, visit the calendar page at WayneNet. There are lots of activities going on in and around Wayne County, and you can find out what's going on there or submit your event as well to be shared with other people so that they can get connected with you. Well, let's get into the program. Today we are continuing our series on getting to know your school superintendents, and we have as our privilege to host today, our guest is George Philhower. He is the superintendent of schools at Western Wayne. George, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hi. So for those of our viewers who may not have caught you on a previous program or who may not know you outside of the school system there, tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection with Wayne County.
Yeah, so my name is George Philhower. I'm the superintendent at Western Wayne Schools. I've been at Western Wayne this is my 13th year and my second year as superintendent. In addition to being the superintendent of Western Wayne Schools, I also do my best to stay connected within the community. I'm a member of the Wayne County Chamber Board of Directors. I participate in a couple committees with them. I'm a member of the Forward Wayne County Steering Committee. I also serve on Purdue Polytechnic University's advisory board, and along with the other superintendents, I'm a member of the Communities in Schools board as well. So really enjoy being an active member in Wayne County.
A lot of connections there in the county at various levels, business and education levels. And so that's really important as it opens up the opportunities for students to have a connection with their next step, because we talk a lot about in school systems the education of elementary and high school students, but one of the focuses for a long time has been what to happen after you graduate from high school. And that focus for a long time, especially while I was in school, was going to college. And then after that, it was more of a focus not only on professional education, but also the skilled trades as well. And so having those connections probably comes in very handy.
Absolutely. You know, one of our goals for all of our kids is for them to not just graduate, but graduate with a plan. So we do our best to try to blur the lines between high school and what comes after high school. We really want to try to give kids experiences during school with what they're going to do after school. So in a lot of cases, that's, they're going to IUEs to participate in college classes during high school, or they're doing some work-based learning experiences. So definitely those connections absolutely help with that.
Well, now that we've gotten a teaser about what we're going to talk about later, and that's how Western Wayne does prepare students for after school, let's talk a little bit more about the school corporation in general. Tell us about, for people who may not know, they just know it's over there in Western Wayne County somewhere, a little bit about the school system, the population, and the areas that you serve.
Yeah, so we are in the southwestern part of the county, Washington and Jackson townships. The cities of Cambridge City is our main hub. That's where our schools are located, but also, we include the small towns of Dublin, Mount Auburn, Milton, and Pershing. We currently serve around 800 students in grades K through 12. In addition to that, we have 2 preschool classrooms. We just started a daycare program in 3 of our classrooms with a partnership between the YMCA in Richmond and Sugar Creek. Right now, the question that a lot of people ask is how many of your kids are coming to school actually. And so currently we have about 12% of our population that's choosing to learn virtually.
That's interesting, and that is one of the questions that we'll deal with later that we haven't ever talked about before really in detail is how you deal with health crises, but in the last year it's been something that schools have had to really step up and take the lead in a lot of times with the distance learning and so forth. And that's something that we had seen prior to 2020 happening at the collegiate level and for some rare cases in the elementary and secondary education, but this last year, it's crazy. But you mentioned something earlier about preparing students and blurring the line between high school and so forth. And one of the things that sets various school systems apart from each other is their approach. I mean, all the school systems have the same general purpose, and that is to provide education to people who are under the age of 18, 6 to 18 roughly. And they all do basically the same thing. They hold classes, teach kids, take tests, pass them on, right? But each school system has its own unique flavor. And so what I'd like to ask you about is, what does it mean to nurture, nurture, help me out here, learners.
Nurture
There's a word in the middle.
learners. Yeah, so that's our mission at Western Wayne Schools. And so it defines everything we do. I'm excited that you picked up on that by visiting our website. So as I mentioned, in a roundabout way just a little bit ago, when students leave us, we want to make sure that they have the skills and attributes to be successful for life. And we believe powerful learners are able to do that. And if we're only working to create proficient students, which is that traditional work of school, it's possible that a proficient student wouldn't have those attributes, but we're confident that a powerful learner would. So a few years ago, we worked with the stakeholders throughout the county to create what we called a profile of a graduate. And it just is it's an outline of the attributes that our community thinks that our students should have when they leave us. So at Western Wayne Schools, it's 6 things. So we want them to be able to communicate effectively. We want them to be able to take ownership of their learning. We want them to have the skills that they need to collaborate and work with people. We want them to work with purpose. We want them to have a sense of curiosity and wonder as they go throughout their life. And then we want them to contribute to the world around them and to try to make the world around them better. So with that in mind, that's kind of our definition of what it means to be a powerful learner, which leaves the word nurture. So for us, we think a lot about what does it mean to nurture, and we boiled that down to 5 different things. So for us, it starts with the word joy. So we try to think every day, what do we do today to make the kids want to come back tomorrow? And this last week at Western Wayne Schools was Passion Project Week. So we had students participating in Iron Chef contests. We had students, we had a kindergarten class that made a mud kitchen that now goes outside and they can play in the mud with. So we're really intentional about trying to add things to the school day to make our kids want to return the next day. And once we've convinced them that our schools are the places they want to be, our attention focuses to what we call community. And so what we want is for our students to feel like they belong at school. When our families talk about us and when the students talk about us, we want them to describe their school as us and we. And we feel like that too often when people are talking about school, they're talking about they or them. And so we really want to make sure that they feel like they belong. Number 3 for us is usually the primary focus of schools. And that's impact. We want to make sure kids are learning every day. We think that's important, obviously. Number 4 for us is empowerment. So we want to make sure that as kids are learning, they're also learning how to learn. And that's what it means to be a powerful learner, is that you go throughout the rest of your life knowing how to learn. And number 5 isn't 5th because it's last, but it's kind of how we do the work. We call it teamwork. And that's just all of us as a staff working together to make things better every day. So as I said, the work of nurturing powerful learners is something we're all proud of throughout the district. And it's definitely all of the work we do goes towards the mission of nurturing powerful learners.
Now, we know that there are certain requirements that come down from the government to the school systems as far as various levels that are expected at each grade level for each student, and especially upon graduation, that they have to meet. And ISTEP has been a big topic of conversation for years, and the mandatory testing that takes place and how that affects the students. And there was a big concern about teaching for the test, which doesn't, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, lead towards lifelong powerful learning. So how does Western Wayne in particular balance those two requirements, that is meeting the state objectives and meeting the mission of developing and nurturing powerful learners?
Yeah, so we do see instructing proficient students as a part of nurturing powerful learners. The problem is if we only had the goal of instructing proficient students, then we would be shortchanging our students. So, like a lot of schools, we do have a curriculum map that outlines all of those state standards that you were talking about. We call that our guaranteed and viable curriculum. We use common assessments throughout the district that help us know whether or not students are learning those things. And so we do all of those things as well. But for us, it's a portion of what we're doing. Even though some days, most days, it takes up the majority of our time. But if our mission was only to instruct proficient students, then we would feel like we were definitely coming up short in terms of preparing kids for life after school.
Right, where we're required to learn on a daily basis or lose out, basically.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago some of the other programs that you do, some of the almost extracurricular learning that happens in the classroom to create joy. You mentioned the mud kitchens and some other activities there that help students have an idea of wanting to come back. And I remember from my days in school and my children as they were discussing school, sometimes it's they get to go to school, and sometimes it's they have to go to school. And sometimes there's a kind of a conversation about, kids that like to go to school, they're kind of weird, but it seems like you're wanting all of your students to want to go to school. And so how does that play out on a daily basis?
Yeah, so we've given our teachers the autonomy to innovate around that idea, and we were very intentional about it. We call it surprise and delight. And so we want teachers, it's an expectation that you integrate that idea into your daily plans, that we think every single day, what are we going to do today to make kids want to come back tomorrow? And as you might imagine, we're not 100% successful with that. But being intentional about it allows us to do better than what we would if we weren't. So sometimes that's whimsical silliness that we give our staff permission to integrate into the school day. And sometimes it's components of a lesson that are specifically tied to a learning objective that we intentionally think about to engage students in their learning.
Now, one of the things that I mentioned specifically along those lines that I learned from your website was a testimonial from a parent about they had transferred their student into Western Wayne because they weren't getting the kind of attention or focus that they needed in a larger school system. And so they came to Western Wayne, which, as you mentioned, has 800 students in the entire corporation, which is smaller than many high schools in the state of Indiana. So do you think that smaller population and small town feel is the primary draw for people from other areas? Do you think it's one of your primary strengths, or is there something else?
I definitely think it's a strength. I mentioned earlier, this is my 13th year at Western Wayne. And one of the reasons that I know that is because the kids who are graduating this year, I first met them when they were kindergartners. Mm-hmm. And so we're small enough that I watched those kids grow over the last 13 years. And right now, actually later this afternoon, me and the high school principal will be finishing up meetings with our seniors. We meet one-on-one with all of our seniors and actually end up all of our juniors as well, to talk to them about what do they want to do after high school. And just to, we've just got a few more months of school. So right. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help students bridge the gap between the graduation stage and whatever comes next. And, through those one-on-one conversations, and then also the community connections that we mentioned at the onset of this discussion, that we can pair up students with resources to help them succeed. And that's an advantage of a small district, that we can get to know our kids that intimately, that they can sit down with a superintendent on a one-on-one basis, and I can help them figure out solve those problems as they think about the rest of their life.
that focus, that one-on-one kind of attention is something that is lacking in school systems where that it is larger. I mean, I went to Newcastle, and I didn't know the superintendent on that kind of a level, but I had good relationships with the principal and with my teachers and so forth. But I can't imagine how much more impact that would have on a student, especially a struggling student, to know that someone at your level is invested in their future.
Yeah, and that's our job. Is if we're not setting kids up for success after high school, then we're coming up short. And we've got to do, nurturing powerful learners it's everybody's on board, and that includes me. So I've got to do my part to help kids figure out what they're going to do when they leave here.
We've mentioned a couple of things, and I want to kind of circle back around and tie them in a little bit. We talked about students coming in from other school districts, or I mentioned it, and you picked up on it. And a few years ago, the idea of parents being able to enroll their student in a school that's not in their residential district became law in the state of Indiana. It was really easy for parents to do that. Have you seen a significant intake in new students from other school corporations as a result of that?
At Western Wayne, we have not seen a significant increase. The change that we've noticed is just the amount of students that move from school to school throughout the year.
Oh.
It's greater, much greater than what it has been in the past.
Does that
yeah.
Does that present any unique challenges for being able to maintain the educational progress of the students?
Of course, yeah. It's that pillar 2 for us is community. We want to make sure our kids feel like they belong, and often if a student's transitioning from school to school, it's difficult to make that happen. And unfortunately, as that happens with students, it just becomes more difficult for them to build a meaningful relationship with their teacher. Research shows that it takes, sometimes 6 to 8 months for that to happen. And so, if a student's transitioning throughout the year, then it makes it difficult for us to form those relationships that we depend on.
Well, if it takes 6 or 8 months for a student to make a relationship with their teacher, they're almost at the end of the school year before they've got that trust built.
Absolutely. So at Western Wayne, we do a couple things as we think about that. So at the middle school, high school level, all of our students are assigned what we call a champion teacher. There's a TED Talk, I don't know if you've seen it, by a lady named Rita Pearson, and she talks about the fact that every kid needs a champion. Mm-hmm. So we just took that literally, and we have a champion time, and we have assigned every one of our students a champion. And then the students keep those champion teachers for 4 years. And then when they walk across the graduation stage, it's the champion teacher that hands them the diploma. Because we know that it takes students that long to build a meaningful, trusting relationship, often, we try to be as intentional about that as possible.
Well, that's got to be good news for any parents who are considering either staying in Wayne or moving to Western Wayne. And I really appreciate that kind of attitude. And it's something that I've seen in educators as I've talked to the superintendents in Wayne County. It's something that I see as unique, and I hear it more in Wayne County than I've heard it from other school districts. And I really appreciate that. And I hope our viewers appreciate that as well. One of the things that I've learned in interviewing the various superintendents is about the collaboration that you have in your small group. And there are just a few of you as superintendents in schools in Wayne County. Talk about how that collaboration among the superintendents helps you as a school and benefits our community.
Yeah. So I talk with the other superintendents in Wayne County every day. Actually, as I'm talking to you, I can see in my background of my computer text messages popping up from them right now. So, it's awesome to know that we can depend on each other. Sometimes the superintendency can be a lonely position because you're making decisions, and especially in a small district where we're kind of it's just me in terms of central office administrators. So to have others in the district that are in similar positions that I can collaborate with, it's incredible. I think our whole county benefits from that collaboration.
Well, I would think that it would make for less siloing in the educational and less competition and more, I like to use the term co-opetition. You're cooperating as you're competing. Because
and really, I really believe, I'm a sports fan and I'm all about, any kind of competition that we want to do that starts after 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the stuff that we do before 3 o'clock is a competitive event. At least not in the competitive event that's the same. I want every kid in Wayne County, every kid everywhere, to be a powerful learner when they graduate. And so anything that we can do to help that throughout the county, we're all in on that. It is unfortunate that, maybe there is a belief that competition makes schools better. But I'm not so sure I agree. I think we're better when we're collaborating and we're working together to try to make each other and ourselves better.
A little bit of iron sharpens iron there. The
Absolutely.
Best practices and finding out what works well, and maybe we could try that in our organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, one of the big things on everyone's mind, obviously, for the last year has been COVID, and specifically as it relates to you, its impact on education. Earlier, you mentioned that about 12% of your students are getting their education virtually or online. And so talk a little bit about the challenges that makes for you as a school system and for the educators, and how you are making sure that you're still nurturing powerful learners even when you don't have that close contact.
Yeah, so in a typical year, I'm not thinking every single day about how to keep the doors open. And that is the case this year, that every single day. We started planning in March when we went home, and we weren't sure how long we would be home. But we started putting together some plans even then. A part of nurturing powerful learners, as I've thought about that over the last several years, the idea of having to keep the doors open wasn't something that was a part of that plan.
Right.
So we've really, worked hard. Contact tracing and those types of things take up a lot of people's time. So, in addition to those things that we do to nurture, I've got building administrators and teachers that are playing roles that are in addition to that. Teachers are spending time cleaning their classrooms instead of nurturing powerful learners, and principals are spending time calling parents and telling them that their kid has been a close contact to someone we found out tested positive. And, in a lot of ways, that's a distraction from the work of our mission. And then also, our students in their classrooms, we're going to do everything we can to keep them in the building because it's closer to our mission than what it is if they're at home. But at the same time, our students are spread apart and they're wearing masks. And as you can imagine, it's not the ideal situation for us as we achieve our mission. But we're doing the best we can. And we are very proud that we've been open every day since, all of our students have been able to go every single day since the beginning of the school year.
Well, it's good that you're able to do that and to accommodate those who, for whatever reason, can't be in class on any given day. We're coming to the end of our program. George, I want to thank you again for being here. But before we go, we have been flashing up on the lower thirds the information about how people can get in touch. But just for those that like to hear it as well, could you review the contact information for you and for the school?
Yeah, I'm always available by phone or by email. My last name's difficult, but you can probably see it on the screen easier than I could spell it to you. Thanks to Read Health, we have a brand new website with all kinds of great information on it. I send out a newsletter once a month, so if you want to be a part of that, I can add anybody to that list. Just shoot me an email; I can make that happen.
If people were interested. Thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting, but if people were interested in getting more involved in Western Wayne, how can our viewers get connected to Western Wayne schools?
Yeah, so we always love volunteers, and we work very closely with communities and schools. And so if anybody is interested in and connecting with us to help out. We would love to have you. You know, in a normal non-COVID year, we do quarterly community meetings where we invite community members to our buildings to showcase the great work that we're doing. We look forward to the day that we'll be able to get back to that. But if anybody's interested in helping out in any way, just shoot me an email.
Okay. And in addition to your name, which is kind of difficult to spell for some people, G. Philhower, or they could also do info@WWayne. Make sure you get both W's in there, wwayne.k12.in.us, and that's a way to connect for email. Or on our website, we'll also have links on the waynenet.org/cc. We'll also have links to the school for you to get connected with Western Wayne School Systems. George Philhower, Superintendent of Western Wayne Schools, I appreciate again you being on our program today. Thank you for your time and for promoting Western Wayne Schools as an agency that makes Wayne County a great place to work, live, and play.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Best of luck in the rest of this year. And thank you, viewers, for watching. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today and also promoting the activities of the agencies that we represent and Wayne County Connection. Make sure to visit our website at waynenet.org/cc, where you can learn more again about today's program and about ways that you can get connected to do your part to make Wayne County a great place to work, live, and play. I'm Michael Sweigart, your host. On behalf of Jane Holman, our producer, Wes, our director, and the rest of the staff here at Whitewater Community Television, thanks for watching. We'll see you next month.